Okay. What's that? Yeah, I'm going to stay back here, so I'll say at least 6 feet, right? We're, I don't know if y'all, well, did you hear about Judge Canales? Unfortunately, she came down with COVID, so thoughts and prayers are with her, but it just goes to show we're still not out of the woods, right? Good, so we're here today to just generally celebrate, I think. We're going to try to talk about some specifics and answer questions that you might have. But in our business, which is pretty tough, right? Would you guys agree? We're in a tough business. It's always good to step back and celebrate success when it happens. And that's what we're doing today. We're here just to acknowledge and celebrate that you all, and now this community, has an opportunity to reimagine our public health and provide better services to the community, provide better utilization of taxpayer dollars, and then thirdly, and most importantly for you all, have a much better work environment. Right, and we know that's something that you all have asked for. We know the community has asked for it. We know, and you know more than I, that we can have better public health outcomes in Nueces County. Today, we're here just to commemorate that, to talk about it, talk a little bit about the specifics of the contract, and then see if you have any questions. Great, Jenny made it. So with me today is the team that has accompanied me from the city: Steve Vieira, Sone Paranel, my assistant, Miles Risley, our city attorney, and did I see Yvonne? Was Yvonne here somewhere? No? Okay, I thought I saw Yvonne. Okay, so our human resource director isn't here, but Steve, who's the former HR director for the city, will help with any HR type questions. We are, as we always do, we want to be transparent and have employees that don't have an opportunity to be here today to see this, so we're recording it right now with city staff communications team, and it's being broadcast live on Facebook, part of our transparent protocol that we've used since day one. So you may recall, it seems like it's hard to believe it was that long ago, but back in October, right, of 2021, that's when City Council first approved to have a separate health department in the city. Right? Does that seem like a long time ago? It does, right? By the lack of leverage, the Nueces County Commissioners Court said, you know what, we're a little worried about taking over the remnants of the health district, or what will remain of the health district. If we will be able to provide that high quality level of services that we're going to provide to the or through the negotiating process, they offer an alternate option for us to consider, which is the city taking over the health operator, with 100% operator, right? And so for the past couple of weeks or months, that's what we've been negotiating. And you know that a few weeks ago we abandoned the city-only department. The district, the management of it, the day-to-day operations of it. All employees would be city employees, and the county would be a partner / customer, where annually they would buy services from the city, create the payment amount, and then we'll receive that payment from the county. Right, so that's what was agreed upon in I guess a pretty significant way, a historic way this week. And so we know that on Monday, the Nueces County Commissioners Court held a special meeting to consider that contract, the one that now is about 11 pages, that lays out this business plan. And they approved it with a 4-to-1 vote. It was pretty consistent to the vote they had taken, I guess, earlier in the prior week. And then we knew that City Council had a scheduled meeting on Tuesday, and so on Tuesday, City Council met to consider that already approved contract from the commissioners, and the city approved it with a 9-0 vote on Tuesday. So of the 14 voting members, right, the Commissioners Court in the city, it basically is a 13-to-1 vote in favor of this. The reason I bring those numbers up is because we know, and you know from a professional standpoint, that a better model will provide better health outcomes at a better price and have a better work environment. But the policy setters also, I think in a mandate way, told us the same thing with that 13-1 vote. Is it 13 or 14-1? 14-1, right? You guys get, right? 13? Okay. Just making sure we're all here today. So, okay, so that's a big mandate. We know that our form of government is, at least in the cities, a city council manager form of government. And the city council is a very big part of our business or our government. And they take vote on big policy issues. And so when you have a mandate vote like that, that should tell us something. That tells us that they, the policy setters, recognize that we want better health outcomes, we want better work environments, and we need a better business model, and so that's what they approve. So we want to be here today to acknowledge that and to celebrate that. Are you all excited about that, or what? Are we? Yeah. Right. So I mentioned this before, but we're addressing a lot of legacy issues in the city, right? I've been here about 3 years, and we've gone from one business operation to another. The community demanded it. So things like government services, our streets department. The city before didn't have a public works department. There was one years ago, but it was broken apart and spread across the city organization. There was no focus on streets. That's one of our biggest issues. So we recreated that operational department. We brought it back together, hired more people, bought very expensive equipment, retrained everybody, have a 5-year plan so we know what streets are going to get done when. We're using better or the appropriate materials to pave a street in the city. Before, we were using materials that you use for a rural county road somewhere, chip seal is what they called it. And we're investing millions in streets. We're putting over close to 330 million in streets in the past 3 years, which is more than probably the past couple of decades combined. So that's just one example. So as we continue to do this in our city, we're glad that we're able to do it for public health. It wasn't on our radar necessarily for the immediate term to address. We knew that there had to be some changes. It was no surprise to me when I came here 3 years ago that city councils, commissioners' courts wanted change. There's 2 to 3 decades of documented studies that were done that proved this, right? But we had the unique opportunity with a city council and a mayor that said we want to tackle some tough policy issues, and we're not afraid of doing that. We also had a great county commissioners' court that said the same thing. So this legacy issue is finally addressed, and one thing we told you on the onset is that it's pretty unique that you all are a part of it, right? Because it could have happened 10 years from now, it could have happened 10 years prior, but everybody here today has been and will be a big part of the transition, which is a little bit of a burden, right? A little bit more work than a typical employee that may not have to do this, but it's something that you all can be part of and be proud of, and know that you, more than anybody, will have a big impact on how our public health is shaped going forward. So that's something to consider as we move forward. So we know the council has a mandate. I think the employees here have wanted change. You all have told us in a mandate way. But across the state of Texas, others see the same thing. That includes the State Department of Health Services, right, DSHS. So we've talked to lead Commissioner Hellistat many times in the past couple of months, as well as Associate Commissioner David Gruber, and they concur that the number one goal for somebody like us, a health district, is to have good public health, excellent public health actually. And they said we like what we see, and we especially like that the City Council and the Commissioners Court collaborated together, and that we were working in partnership. That was real important to them. They said, you know what, had you guys not done that, you guys as city, we may not be talking to you right now. That was our first call a couple of months ago. So it demonstrates to Texas that, hey, the city of Corpus Christi, Nueces County, we know how to work with each other. Not just for Nueces County, but for the region. So they were pretty fired up about that. As well as Associate Commissioner David Gruber. He equally was very supportive and complimentary of what we're doing. More importantly, he said, you know what, we're a phone call away. So in your transition, if you need help from us, please call us. Don't hesitate to call us. He told us that several times the last couple of weeks. So they're very excited about it. We know that there's another big state agency, the Department of Emergency Management. You all familiar with that one? Right, they help in disaster recovery for a hurricane or a major event or a public health emergency. And so that leader, Chief Nim Kidd, also has been with us, and he's very complimentary, very excited from Austin, and he does get down here about the change. And his associate, Gary Barney, who oversees the region, is well aware as well and is excited about that. And then we can't forget our legislative delegation, the senator and our state representatives that represent this area. We made sure they were aware and got their opinions and made sure we addressed any concerns they had. And they likewise are excited about this change. They're glad. They, like Dishes, said, you know what, local control of local delivery of programs is a local matter. We're not going to legislate it from Austin. But making sure you guys are partnering with not only the county, but with the community, that's what's important to us. And so we're doing that with this new business model. Right, so that's some general overall comments. Again, my message today is this is a big success, ladies and gentlemen. This is huge for our community. You all know better than I, because you deal with the community from a public health standpoint every day, that we have to have better health outcomes in our community. And we have resources, but the wiser and the more efficiently we use them, the more we can do, the more people we can impact. And then we want to be excited about coming to work every day. I know I am, but I want everybody to be that way in our city organization. So we believe that this new in about, what is today, Thursday? So less than, well, a week, yeah, like a week and a day or so, is going to be a great one. And now, having said that, not everything's going to turn on right on March 1. We've talked about that as well. So March 1 is the effective date. And by the way, two other things before I continue on it, but Jenny Dorsey is here today. Jenny, I didn't acknowledge you in the beginning, but we want to thank you for being here. You guys may recognize Jenny, the county attorney. She's been a great professional, working not only in making sure her clients, the commissioners, the county commissioners, the employees, being impressed, but she worked greatly with the city, with Miles directly, but with us indirectly or directly. So Jenny, thank you for being a top professional. It's made this process a real good one. We appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. So we know that March 1 is the date that the new business model takes effect, but there's a lot to do still, right? And so with a week and a day or two, we need to be mindful, and we've talked about this before, that not everything magically transitions on March 1. So there'll be some type of an implementation period. Steve is going to talk a little bit, probably what's one of the most important things to you, the interview processes. There'll be a lot happening next week. We know we already began to interview the mid-level managers, and I think are those interviews done? Or there may be a few? Not yet. Okay, there's still a few, but next week we'll be interviewing a lot of the employees, the frontline employees. And again, it's not going to be, don't go out this weekend and start getting your resumes together and getting some tutoring on how to interview, that type of thing. It's going to be a modified interview approach, and a lot of that will take place next week. And so the goal is to be through most of that next week before March 1, which I believe is Wednesday. Can somebody check that? Is it Wednesday of the next week? To be through that as much as we can. For the director and the assistant director, we're still working with the recruiter and the process for that. We know that the recruitment process for those executive levels is not only local, but it includes a statewide look as well as a national look. And we're using one of the city's recruiters that we use for professional positions or for executive positions. So that's going on as well. That hopefully we'll get a lot of good information before that March 1 or shortly thereafter through the March 1 timeline. On the contract itself, the county has done an outstanding job on securing benefits and rights for the county employee. And that's important because you all, like the city, didn't have one person to go to necessarily. There's no county manager per se, like the city manager here. So you all have some real good benefits, protections, I think, or reasons to be excited about the contract. Things to include being able to carry over sick leave and vacation leave. We got the match issue resolved with the Texas County retirement system, along with the Texas Municipal retirement system. So that's worked out well. Trying to think what else in terms of the employees. The do you have that contract? Oh, here it is. Is this it here? Yes. I just want to see some of these key areas here. We know that on March 1, right, the day-to-day operations transferred to the city, and the county's good with that. Maybe some other things for the county include expanded services, right? And so those expanded services include providing here in the near-term future services out of the Calderon building in Robstown, Texas. So that'll be twice a week. Staff from this operation will go out there and provide service. Also providing service through the mobile bus or van to other parts of the county. That'll take place twice a month. One of the things that's going to take a little bit longer in the transition is the grants, right? And we know that probably about half of you all are grant-funded employees, and so there's a few things on the grants where there's a few grants that are close to being to the end of their term. And so those will remain as they are. The employee, if they're a county employee, will remain an employee until the new health district applies for the grant renewal. And then at that point, they'll become city employees. And there's other grants that we have to transfer over to the city, they're multiple year. And so once the county and the city at the Commissioner's Court and the City Council take actions to transfer the grants, then those employees will come from a county employee to a city employee. We know there's several grants, and so there's a lot of there's several employees. So in the grant-funded employees, there's a couple of different things that will happen over time. We know that the county in the contract will pay the city or pay the district for this year the remainder of what was in their budget. So about 7 months worth of county funds will help us this year, and then next year we, with the director, will negotiate what service levels Nueces County wants. And we'll secure that by July 1. So it could be over time that the county wants more or wants less service, and so we'll go through that through an annual process. One thing the City Council recommended, which was a good thing, we hadn't thought of it, but it was a good idea, which is let's look at this business model every 2 years. It's a mandate that we have to look at what they call the sunset review, but that doesn't mean it goes away in 2 years. That means that in 2 years we do a pretty exhaustive study of how is the business model working, which is a smart thing to do, and see, do we make adjustments to it? Do we change things? Do we add things? And so there'll be kind of an independent report that'll be done. We'll present that to City Council, and then they'll use that as a tool to decide how do we move the business model forward. And so that was a good thing. And then after that 2 years, every 4 years, there would be a sunset review. And that's something they thought we could go, because this, the current business model we're in was created 40 years ago, and it was reviewed probably a couple times, right? So we want to keep doing that. I probably missed some things in here, but Steve is going to talk about personnel, which I know is important. We did put this contract on the portal, is that right? Or did we email it to him? We emailed it. Okay, so everybody has a copy of the contract. I guess it's 9 pages, Miles, not 11. Yeah, so everybody has a copy of the contract that was signed by the Commissioner's Court and the City Council, or me actually, on behalf of the City Council members. So the contract is effective, and it goes into, the new business model starts March 1, right? So I think we have a good plan. Right, we have a good plan, recognize, and I know you all are professionals here, that not only part of the plan in terms of driving it forward and some of the key stakeholders in that, but recognize too that it's going to take a little bit of time. Any type of drastic change like this for the better, something that's been in place for 40 years doesn't just turn on a dime or turn one day to be something different. So it's going to take a little bit of time. We're going to learn some of the transition as we get through it. We care about you, the employee, and it doesn't matter if you're a city employee or a county employee. I've been saying that since the get-go. We've never divided the group. We always wanted you all here with us to talk to you. So we care about every one of you as an individual, and we want you to be part of the transition, but I want you to be mindful that not everything's going to happen in one day, and there's going to be things that we have to go back and rethink and see how do we bring them forward. So I ask you to have that mindset too as we do that. Okay, so I can see if there's any questions for me, and then we'll have Steve talk a little bit about some human resource stuff. Yes, ma'am?
Can you let us know which grants will remain county, the way that you mentioned that they remain for the grant permit?
Yes, right. I can't do that today, but I've asked the team already to do that. Just list out all the grants so we can see what the grant is, how many positions, what's the term, and when will it transition over. So we'll have that for you probably early next week. Okay, that's important. I want to know because there are some that will stay just as they are, with the exception that the employees will report to the city, right? So you'll get your day-to-day direction from the city. Okay, that's a good question. So we'll have that to you, and we can email it to you as well. Yes, ma'am? Well, that's Greg. Thank you for that clarification. Yes, all positions, no matter if it's a grant, or if it's a general fund city, or prior general fund county, still have to reapply for their job and interview for their job. All employees consistently do that. Right, but again, remember those entry level, I don't want to call it, the frontline level, those interviews are going to be highly modified. It's not like what we think about in an interview where it could take, an hour to a half hour to an hour. They're going to be modified. I've talked directly to many of the commissioners who still, even though we've said it, don't necessarily have strong confidence in it because they care about the employee, and they say about once you sign it, it's too late. But the professionals that are doing this work day to day, I wish I knew the average tenure of you all. It's probably 5-10 years, would you say? So I said, Commissioner, I'm pretty confident that our public health professionals that have been doing these jobs for 10 years at the frontline level know what they're doing. So I have high confidence that through our interview process, you're going to get selected to continue to do that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Letty?
Okay, Peter, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm excited about the change as you presented, and we all are, and we're looking forward to it. However, by reading this contract, I'm dissatisfied with the fact that because when we spoke, when you presented yourself, you came over, and I know this is difficult, but we have to also think of ourselves,
Right.
looking at it in a business perspective, and we're looking out for ourselves as well, because we need to, right? So one of the things that they pointed out about sick time and vacation time, okay, I was not happy the way I understood it, and maybe you can elaborate and explain it, because
Right.
I'm understanding we're not able to carry everything forward.
Right.
And that is not what was shared to us from the very beginning. What was agreed upon was everything was going to carry forward. Now, I understand that the city has different applications as far as sick time. Y'all pay it out, the county, you lose it, the only time you receive it is at the end, when you retire. So when y'all were making these negotiations, I don't think it's fair that the city employees get all their time and we will lose our sick time and our
Right.
vacation time. Because I'm one of those that would like to carry both forward. And the problem is with the city negotiation table, what y'all could do is that the county employees moving forward wouldn't receive a payout for the time of vacation or the time of sick. I'm glad I have this time because that I've accumulated, because for me personally, it involves my mother. I take care of my mom. Anytime that I need to leave to take care of her, she sometimes have to take her to the emergency because she's elderly, so I have to take her to the emergency quite a bit. I don't want to have to worry or be concerned about FMLA because I have the time or any factor. And then it also indicated there that we can't even apply for FMLA putting ourselves at the front line. I was one of them, taking information, putting my life at risk, putting my family, and then to learn that these negotiations, when they were at the table, should have been fighting for us to be able to keep this time.
Right.
Because we deserved it and earned it. And then the city employees get to keep all their time? That's just not right.
Yeah, so lady, I'm glad you mentioned it, because there was a negotiating back and forth, and so the county as well as the city weighed in on how much can we pay or carry forward, because a lot of it comes down to a monetary impact. The city,
Well, our grant,
right, lady, the city has, right, yeah, I think we understand the question. The city has caps on, for all employees, on how much sick leave and vacation leave, and we recognize that. We couldn't have one group of employees out of 3,500 have a different amount of leave. So we had to work within the constraints of financial flexibility from the city and county, caps within the city organization. Not everybody's 100% happy in a negotiated agreement, but I think we have some pretty decent safeguards. When we were talking about it initially, this model that we finally agreed to was not even on the table when we had talked about trying to carry leave over. So what we ended up with the final model is that 40 hours of accrued sick leave will be able to be carried over, and then 240 hours of unused vacation leave. And that sick leave is after the county pays out the employee 96 hours. Vacation leave? Okay. Okay, sorry. Vacation leave is 96-hour payout, and then 240-hour carryover. Now, one thing to remember is that every day you work, it's another day closer to earning more sick leave and more vacation leave. So that doesn't help you with the fact that you said I banked a lot of leave from working in the county, but this is a different model. We tried to get what was fair to the two governmental entities and recognizing that the employee was being impacted or cared about this. So the 40 hours of vacation leave, 96 hours of paid out, 40 hours of sick leave, 96 hours of paid out vacation leave, and then 240 hours of rolled over vacation leave, with more accruing the more time you work. It's not like it stops there. So it's a different business model than what we have today, but we think these are favorable terms for the employee. So that would be my response, Letty. We can talk more about it. The contract is negotiated at this point by both sides, and we're moving forward on it. So, yes.
Peter,
Yes.
I noticed that on the county side, either comp time or personal leave, they have an additional 40 hours of personal leave as a county employee, and those two are not addressed in the agreement. So there's some levels of some balances that are there that, for the agreement, I guess, they're not addressed at all. So do they go away completely, you know?
Yeah, I would imagine they go away completely, Jenny and Miles, but right, yeah, the two attorneys are shaking their head, yes, they would go away.
Comp time gets paid out. That'll get paid on September.
Comp time will get paid out? Okay, so correct that last statement I said. So on those two leaves you said, any comp time will get paid out to the county employee before the transition. Right. Right, and the city does have personal leave at 40 hours, so a new employee coming over would get that.
I have something that probably not something addressed because I have not heard it yet in any of the meetings.
Okay.
It's on our insurance, we have what's the flexible spending accounts.
Right.
And some of us, like in my case, I separated, I'm paying on it, and I already used it all up. I haven't paid it yet. So what's going to happen to that? That's one of my questions. And the people that have separated, but they have not used any of it, what's going to happen with that?
Yeah, are you familiar enough with the county plan? Okay, let me turn over to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, flexible spending account, that's mandated by federal government. If you use all those monies in your flex plan, you're not going to pay that back. You're not responsible once you separate your employment. So if you're a county employee coming over to the city and you used all that money, of course you're no longer receiving a paycheck from the county, so you'll start operating with the city. And so we're fortunate enough to have a very, very robust benefit plan where we have flexible spending accounts, but we also have an HSA. And our HSA has a similar into, and that's money that you keep for the rest of your life, any unused monies, unlike that you have. there is money in your flexible spending account, then you lose that money. Now, you are able to COBRA your flexible spending. It gets really complicated if you wanted to continue paying for it, but yeah, any monies that you have not used in your flex plan, you do lose that.
Okay, great. Yes, ma'am?
What happens to the general fund account, for the city and the county that have not been officially employed or hired by the city come March 1st? Are we out of job? Because according to the contract,
Yeah.
it says we are considered effectively terminated come the effective date.
Right, so the goal is next week to be able to interview all those employees. Our Human Resources Director is putting together that process today.
So all employees, because I know some of them haven't, some jobs haven't even been posted yet.
Right, exactly, that's why that'll begin next week. But we talked about this earlier with Miles, so if for some reason, say an employee was supposed to interview but was sick or had some event that they couldn't interview, we're gonna hold them over. We'll hold that position over till after March 1.
What about county employees?
The same thing.
So the county
Yeah,
is going
right,
to
the
pay
same
them?
thing. Yes, ma'am. So the contract says March 1. There may be a case or two where we're still interviewing, we're still wrapping things up. It could be March 2nd, March
County
7th.
agreeing to pay the county employees?
What's that?
Is the county agreeing to pay the county employees that haven't been hired by March 1st?
If they're not, the city would. We're not worried about 1 or 2 days worth of pay. Yeah. it's-
You might not. I mean, I
What's that?
would be worried if I don't get 1 or 2 days worth of pay.
No, you're gonna get the pay. We're gonna pay for
One
it.
of them are
Yeah,
gonna pay you.
yeah.
Not if you're not-
Yeah, we're not worried. That's a small detail. Who pays the salary of the employee if they're still kind of on a holdover status as we're wrapping things up? Right, this is about fairness and transparency and openness. And we're working hard to get to that March 1 timeframe. We're sure, I'm telling you right now, I told you earlier, we're sure not everything's gonna get done by March 1. But we're all professional here. We have Jenny that's worked great with us. We know how to communicate with the county and the city if we need to make slight adjustments, not to the contract, but to people in those positions, right? We're processing that. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
If the grant stays with the county and it has to be the county employees and others, they're directed by the city, do they reapply for their job on the city site, or do they reapply for their job on the county website? And how do you keep that internal on the county website?
There'll be all city positions, so there will be no postings at the county. Right, so any position for any grant will all be through the city. The financial mechanics of where the grant posted and whose financial system is kind of a different matter. So there are those grants that will remain in the county financial system. The employees would still be county employees, but in this agreement, the agreement allows us to have those positions be advertised, interviewed, and selected by the city and reporting to the city. That's a section in the contract. Good question. And let me just tell you, as we go through this, please continue to have open dialogue with us. Don't assume things and remember the worst scenario. We're all professionals, so if we have to make adjustments, we have the legal team here with us. I'm the city manager who's running the business. So everything stops here with me, so we know how to make decisions and we know how to adjust. We have to do that every day in our business. So while the contract's pretty black and white, the people factor of it is much different, right? So we know how to make adjustments, we're nimble, and we know that we care and have empathy for the employees and the community, and so we'll do what's right going forward. Yes, ma'am?
Can you clarify what's gonna happen with those individuals who are within a year or two of being vested with the county? Because I've heard mixed responses.
Can you say that, the second part again?
Can you clarify what's gonna occur with those individuals who are within a year or two being vested with the county?
Okay, right, yeah, so the question is, there was 5 employees to be exact that were about 2.5 years from being vested with the county, meaning they needed that at least 2 to 3 years to reach the 8 years. In one of the initial drafts of the contract, we had a special section in there that named these 5 employees and said these 5 employees will remain county employees so that they can be vested and then they would be city employees. However, the system said that no, the employee can go to the city, be a city employee for that time, say it's 2 years that you need to vest, and the county retirement system will recognize that as 2 years of county work to be able to get the match money. So in the example, let's just take an 8-year example. If the county employee was 6 years at the county, they would have 6 years of money deposited into the county system. The county would have put 6 years of match money in. Now when you come to the city, you'll be 2 years, say, as a TMRS employee, you'll be putting money in the TMRS, but those 2 years are going to count for you to be a county 8-year employee. Okay, so the 2 years in the city will be 2 years of TMRS, 2 years of city match money, or county match money, I'm not sure which, but is it I think it's 2 years of city match money, right? Yeah,
The TDCRS account will be matched as to the county match,
okay,
whatever that is supposed to be.
right, okay,
But
so
they
that.
have to call TCDRS to make sure that time is added, because they're not tracking it unless you call.
Okay, so we'll help you with those employees, we're gonna have on.
That
We'll-
would actually be everybody then, wouldn't it? Like if you're only been 2 years in county and then you work 6 years in city, you wouldn't get vested from the little bit money that you have 2 years, or is it only going to be those people?
Everybody, if you put in 2
Everybody,
years
right?
at the county, leave it there, or 6 more years, you're
And
vested.
there's no losing, y'all. We're good.
Okay,
We're good then.
okay, and we'll have individual one-on-one help if y'all need it, because everybody has a slightly different situation in terms of term and time, that type of thing. Okay, so that's good. We know that these benefits are an important part of the job. And Steve said it, I'm not too sure of the county healthcare plan, but I know the employee healthcare plan, but the city one has been improved in the 3 years I've been here, in part because I wanted it to be. I came from a city that had a real good healthcare plan. And of everything the employees told me in my first couple of months on the job, it wasn't about the floors, the desks, or the computer, it was about our healthcare. And so we changed it that summer for that October 1st budget, and it's gotten better for the past 2 budgets. So we have a very good program that's really reasonable to the employees, and some good options there as well. Hey, Commissioner Hernandez.
How are you,
Yes, sir. Good, doing great. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll let you say a few words in a few moments. Yes, ma'am.
So when you hired, they hired March 1st. So we're transferring benefits from the county over here. Do we still get like our 40 hours, like all the benefits that you're
As a new employee.
Yeah, let's see, the question is, do they come over as a 1-year employee or like a,
Or do I come in with the benefits that y'all post plus what I'm bringing over?
yeah, yes.
Plus
So,
what I'm bringing over, I'm bringing 40 hours, vacations a day. So that's what you're giving me right now in the city.
yes,
Right, and you're gonna start accruing at the time. So if you're a 10-year employee, you're gonna accrue at the city's 10-year amount of accruals that we give to those employees.
okay, that's good. Okay, that's an important part. If you're, say you're a 10-year employee, you get more, right, you get more leave time, both the sick leave and vacation leave, the longer you've been with the organization. That's pretty typical. Okay, Commissioner Hernandez, did you want to say a few comments? Is he still there? I don't have my glasses. Okay, there he is. Let's Commissioner Hernandez. I can tell you right now, as the commissioner walks up, this is one of the commissioners that cares about the county employees. He and I personally met several times and talked, and I'm glad that you're here today. I want to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's a good thing I'm not long-winded. I just want to say that I highly approve of this concept, the way it should be done. I think it's a good deal for the employees, city and county. I wouldn't have done it any other way. Forgive me for
Peter, it's okay, yeah.
Peter and the rest of the crew in the city had a good concept. They brought us a good deal. We had no choice to accept. It's a good deal for you all, for the employees. So please, if you can, stay with it. And I've always told people, working for the county 22 years, best thing that can happen, stay employed with the county, because it's your retirement system that's going to grow. It's going to help you. So thank you all, congratulations. I'm pretty sure the city's going to do right by you.
Yes, sir. Great. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. Yes, sir. Okay, great. So, and we have a great thing for the community too, you all, right? I mean, the Commissioner said this is a great thing for us here, the employees, but I think the community, and again, you have to remember that this is one of many that we're doing at the city, and in this case, it's the city and county coming together to fix something that needed to be fixed. Not from my words, many other people decades ago, 2 to 3 decades ago. So we're glad we're here today. It's a big celebration. Do we have some more questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question and a comment. First comment, as a city employee, I can say that when we first get back to the city employee, we have insurance coverage. In the county, you have to wait 6 months. So before you're even covered, you don't have insurance coverage.
No.
So it's a benefit for the county folks that are coming into the city. That's my comment.
Okay.
Second is my question, on the contract, page 2, section B, it asks, or it says something about excluding the waiver and the general fund, the 39-1 employees. What's the excluding from?
This is, let me see, grants requiring county employee. Miles, that section there, we put in, grant.
B
Yep.
says grants requiring city county employment. If the terms of a grant require a grant-funded position to continue employment directly by the county employee until the grant can what we said a little bit earlier is that there is some grants that are, it's going to take a little bit of time to get the granting agency to move the money over to the city so that the city can pay. So we're going to match up the granting money with the position so that grant can pay for the position. So some of those grant people will stay with the county until the grant transfers.
But why are you excluding the two, the very in the last sentence there?
The employees, including County Department 3091 and the 1115 waiver.
That's to make it clear that those people in those two areas, that's not the, we don't consider those the grants. So those are the general fund and the
Okay.
1115 are coming over to the city. That's
Right, okay, that's a good point. 'Cause
That
that whole
have
paragraph,
clarity.
right. Yeah, that whole paragraph dealt with, what's that? Yeah, that whole paragraph dealt with grants, so it's just to add clarity that these two entities that are not grants, it doesn't include them. That's the answer. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Miles. Okay, do we have any more questions? This is not the last time we'll be speaking with the employees, either myself or our team. The county, Jenny Dorsey is still very much engaged. Francisco, to some extent, from the auditor's office is engaged. We really should have brought a big cake here today, folks, but we'll do that on March 1. I do want to, it's a little bit more quiet than normal in here from the employees, but I want you all to be excited about this. This is you brought a cake?
No.
No, okay. Go ahead.
We're all cautiously optimistic about
Yes.
the new change. Now, there has been concern lately, especially with the language, that, before, I think we were under the impression that we were going to be guaranteed a job, but with all this new language, it doesn't sound like everybody's going to be guaranteed. And we've been a team, especially the past 2.5 years, we've been a team. And so I think that's the concern with everybody here is that March 1st, he's going to be here. Like, it's not a guarantee.
Right, and Dr. Donenfeld, I'm not sure if you were in some of those initial meetings back in October, but we always said on the onset that we would have all employees reapply for their jobs. That's when it was just going to be a city department, and even in the new model that we ultimately approved, it's still the same, is that we want to make sure we have the right employees in the right position. The city has a reduction in force policy, so we've made this pledge to you all in many of our meetings, and we've told this to the council and the commissioners court that if for some reason an employee doesn't get hired, we'll help place them in another department in the city. That's a possibility. The county doesn't have something as such, but we'll work with them as best we can. But that was something all along, which is that when we look at changing an organization, we have to just make sure we have the right people in the spot. And you do that by doing interviews, whether they're modified or more elaborate if it's at an executive level. But we have confidence, you all should have confidence. If you're doing your job and you're doing it well, there's nothing to be afraid of, right? So I think we're gonna be okay. And again, on March 1, we're hoping to have interviewed the team that's here, but it may mean that we're not quite done that process. So March 1 could look like March 2nd, March 3rd, but it'll be around that time. Yeah.
I think everybody should hold their breath. And
Okay,
then,
don't,
you know,
yeah, right. It's easy for me to say this because I'm not interviewing, but have confidence in us. We know that you all have cared for the community and you care about your profession. One of the reasons that we had to work a little bit with the city council to make sure they were all on board with the county proposed model was one of the reasons I was able to work with them to convince them is from meeting with you all week after week. And I know that you care as employees, and this speaks more so to the county employee, but I said, you know what, let's do that model where it brings all these employees back together, but under one managing entity. So we care about you, meeting with you and working with you, and so we'll keep moving forward through this process. The interviews will be next week. Again, they're gonna be modified. It's a modified process for those positions below the division heads, and then of course the executive level, that'll be different as well. Okay, yes ma'am?
So with the interviews that you're gonna be doing for like the entry-level staff, are managers gonna be are they gonna be involved in the interview?
Yes, they are. And remember, the question was, will the managers be involved in the interview process for their employees? The answer is yes. That's why we want to do those mid-level manager interviews first, so that we know who those persons will be, and then they'll be part of the interview process for the staff members in those units.
And then interviews are gonna be here?
Sure.
Or you have to go somewhere?
We're thinking about doing them at City Hall in the second floor of the Human Resources Department area. There's a big conference room there, and then there's some breakout rooms that we can use for paperwork purposes. There's good parking there as well, so next week. Gilbert, you have a question?
Yes, sir. So I was able to get the vital records team here, but one of the concerns they have is, as we've heard in the beginning, is vital records will transfer over to city secretary's office. One of the things they've kind of had questions on is when will that hiring process begin for them, since a lot of the positions are beginning to start posting.
Right, so for the vital statistics, birth records and death certificates and so on, we're still working with the city secretary who will take over that role. Most likely she's actually pretty excited about it. And she's done some tours of some of our companion cities here in Texas to see how their operations run. We won't have her all set up to go as the new department where that unit will go to. So next week, the same thing, interviews will take place with this same group for the vital statistics unit. Okay? And then the city secretary will assume those positions and budgets as we transition that over. We're going to be going to city council, I think it's going to be this Tuesday. We have a city council meeting, and I believe we have an item on the agenda to begin to try to work the budgets so that city council amends the city's budget to reflect position counts and budgets and so on. And so we'll be doing this as we progress forward over the months. There'll be amendments still, like we'll remove from the health district and put it in the city secretary's budget, vital statistics. So that goes to that same concept I talked to us about earlier, that not everything's going to be done on the 1st of March. And so vital statistics is a good example. We'll be working with the city secretary, and eventually we'll move those positions from a reporting standpoint daily. And then we'll also amend budgets and move funds from one unit to another. Yes, ma'am?
Some of the program managers have asked when the new type of budgets are going to be able to be used. They're holding on to some of those purchases because what we had before was split in 3 months and 9 months.
Right.
So we're able to use that 9-month budget. Some of us are in the negative already.
Yeah.
So we're just wondering when. Is it 3-1?
Right, that's a good, yeah. So as I mentioned, next week, we're going to take a budget amendment to City Council to amend those budgets to have the remaining year in the one entity, the health district in the city. Right, but I would, I'm not saying just go spend willy-nilly, but I wouldn't stop buying things, especially in this area of critical health services. I would keep buying even if it's running negative. We'll figure that out later, you know, where the money's coming from. Right, it's there, the city has it, the county has it, you would have bought it anyway normally. So I wouldn't, yeah, so keep going forward. It's gonna be a week or two more before we get the budget set up in the city's accounts to reflect this new business model. Yeah, good question though. Okay, so let's call it a meeting. We're gonna do something more than this to celebrate the success, and we'll have more opportunity. We're gonna be very appreciative of the new results that start coming forward. And as I've been saying in some of my interviews and to you, that for the customer, for our patrons out there, our clients, there won't be too much noticeable difference in the first couple of weeks, maybe the first couple of months, right? But the whole reason we're doing this is so we can see relatively soon some real positive improvement in our public health outcomes, and more importantly for you and your workplace environment, some clarity, some positive energy, or more than what we have today, and a great place to think about where I'm going to go every day. Right, so thank you for being part of it up to this point. We're not done yet. We're really just beginning. And we look forward to working with you. And the same things I told you before still exist, which is if you want to come see me, if you have questions for Steve, don't hesitate to call me. Don't hesitate to come by City Hall. I've met with several of you all upstairs in my office. And Steve has talked to employees, and so keep that up. Keep the dialogue open. Don't assume worst case scenario and run with it. Rather get the facts, pick up the phone, call us, come see us. We can accommodate pretty much anything. Okay? So congratulations to you all, and we'll see you again soon. All right.